Welcome back to our third video tutorial in our series where we are learning all about pivot tables in Microsoft Excel, and in particular here we are looking at road fatalities in Australia over the years 1989 to 2021. Okay, in our worksheet we are up to pivot table number 3. Okay, so let's have a look at question 1 here. It says we need to create a pivot table that counts the number of fatalities by time. So we're looking at the hourly, we're looking at the hours of the day and working out when the most fatalities occur. Okay, so let's click anywhere inside of our table here, back on the raw data, go up to insert and create a pivot table and click OK. Okay, now in this pivot table, the data we're looking for here is the time. So over on the right hand side here we've got the pivot table fields. We do have a time, so let's check that box there. And straight away that puts in the hours, the minutes and the time down the left hand side of our page. Okay, that's looking good. Now what we want to do there is count how many people have died at each hour of the day. So again, we don't have a specific field that lists the number of people that have died. So what I might do is what we did earlier and just use road user again. So I'm going to check that box and move it from the rows section here over to the values. It should say count of road users. And what that's going to do is go through the different times of the day, starting at midnight, goes all the way through to 11 PM at night there, and it will tell you how many people have died on Australian roads during those times. You'll see the first one there is a bit of an odd one. Not sure what that field is, so let's clean that up by clicking on the row labels here and deselecting it, clicking OK. Okay, took about 40 of the deaths out of our table, but that's only a very small number when we've got almost 53,000 in there in total. Okay, so I might zoom in a bit here so you can see it a bit clearer. There you have it, all the different times when people have died. And if you hit the little plus signs here, you can actually drill down into a bit more detail, but we don't need that sort of detail. We're just looking at the hourly rate at which people were dying. If you want, you can get rid of the minutes from here, just drag it out and it will just show hours. If I can get rid of time, let's see what this does. There we go, get rid of both of them. So I've just got hours there now with time. I just dragged those other two out of the way, and we've got the count of road users over here. Just makes it look a little bit neater. Okay, so question 1 is done. Question 2, we're going to use color scales, which is another type of conditional formatting to make the information in the table easier to read. The higher the number of fatalities, the redder the shading should be. The fewer the number of fatalities, the greener the shading should be, and yellow should be the color for the values in between. Okay, so we're going to highlight all the values here, so the numbers of the people who have died, and we're going to go to conditional formatting and choose color scales. Now there's different options here that you can play around with. If we hover over the first one there, it's actually in reverse to what we want. You can see the red there is shading the lower numbers and the green shading the higher numbers. If we go across to the second option though, in color scales, that's the one we're after. So the greeny colors are for the lower numbers, yellow in between, and then the red is for the higher numbers. So click on that one. And by using these color scales, sorry, I was getting the name wrong. Using color scales, you can quickly just glance at our data now and straight away see down here around the 3, 4, 5 o'clock mark, that's when we're having the most number of people die on Australian roads. Okay, the best time to be on the road is in the early hours of the morning. That's where our green is, so that shows that least number of people that are dying on Australian roads in the early hours of the morning. Okay, it's that mid-afternoon time slot and early evening that seem to be the issue. Okay, let's go to our next question. Since we've got that one done, I'll tick that off. Number 3 says we need to present this data using the most appropriate chart for time series data. So if we're looking at data over time, I would say the best chart to use would be a line chart. So let's highlight all the data in our table here, apart from the headings, and go to Insert, and we are going to select the line chart here with the markers again. Okay, remember it comes out a little bit ugly, but we can fix that up. So I'm going to get rid of this total legend. We don't really need that there. The count of road user button at the top here, you can go and hide the value field buttons on the chart by right-clicking on it and selecting that option. Probably don't even need the hours at the bottom here, so do the same thing. Just hide the axis field button on the chart. There we go, and you can probably stretch it out a little bit to the right there. Ooh, doesn't look very pretty, does it? But you get the idea. Probably stretch it a wee bit more to try and fix that. There we go, fix that bottom axis. Just didn't look quite right. We can go to the design tab at the top here and choose a different design. I'm going to go with the dark one for this one. And the heading at the top there needs a bit of changing as well. So let's write total number of fatalities. You could write on Australian roads by time of day. Okay, so that will show us, as I said before, from midnight all the way through to 11 PM, showing us the number of fatalities by the time of day. And it's pretty evident to see there that this early afternoon time slot, like we saw before with the colour scales, is the problem area. So I'm going to guess that's the next question. Oh no, we don't have to talk about the trends in the data yet. We've got to use a function to determine the hour with the highest number of fatalities. We kind of already know what that is by looking at our chart and our colour scales, but let's use a function too, which is going to be the max function. So just write equals max, highlight all your numbers, close it off, and it's 3,562, which comes across to 3 PM. Okay, so I'll write highest, I won't write any more, and then down here I'll write lowest, because I think that's the next question. So the next one is just determining which hour has the least number of fatalities. So let's write equals min, open up some brackets and highlight the same data set. Close your brackets and press enter, and you get 11:24, which is, if we go through this, 4 AM in the morning. Quietest time on the roads for people having accidents. Okay, so that's looking good. Now we can answer that trend question. Number 6, what trend is evident from looking at the chart and the data? So as mentioned before, the deadliest time on Australian roads seems to be in the in the mid to late afternoon, and then the quietest time for accidents Australian roads is in the early hours of the morning. Alright, so there's our trends sorted. If you had some other trends that you could see in that data, by all means talk about them, but I think they're the two that really need discussing: when the deadliest time of day is and when the quietest time of day is. So the last one there says provide an explanation for the possible reasons behind this data trend. So I would say most people are sleeping at this hour in the early hours of the morning. That's why we're not on the roads having accidents. So the quietest time of day is when people are still in bed sleeping, so there aren't many users on the road. Okay, and the worst time of day is that peak hour time, I guess you'd say. So afternoon peak hour traffic, I might say when people are tired after work, seems to be the time when the most accidents occur. Oops. There we go. Okay, so you just need to talk about why you think there is that trend in the data. They were my reasons. Okay, people are still in bed during the quiet times, and in the peak times there, that's when they are finishing up work. They're probably a bit tired, and there's a lot of traffic on the road, so there's more chances that you're going to have a crash. Okay, so that's what I reckon the trend in that data is all about. And that is our third pivot table done, I believe. Yep. So you're going well. We've just got one more to go now. So save that one up, and I will catch you in the next video.